Dolly Perot is thankful for every day she has with her mom and sees it as an amazing gift. It wasn't too long ago that Vicky was in hospital with very little chance of survival. She'd been diagnosed with an acute and aggressive leukemia.
They didn't give us very much hope because she drank 30 years, and she just come off a binge when she was diagnosed. And she was in extreme pain when they medevaced her to Edmonton.
Dolly was praying every day for a miracle, but things only got worse.
She started hemorrhaging in her lungs. When I got back to the place where I was staying, they told me, you need to get back to the hospital because your mom is really, really sick. And in my mind, I thought, she was gone. And when I got to Edmonton University, Alberta Hospital, she was in a coma.
What followed was 5 weeks of heartbreak as her mother's condition worsened and the coma didn't break.
The chemo wiped out her immune system. She couldn't fight off any sort of cold or flu germs. So they had her in isolation, so we'd all get suited up to see her, and she was on life support, and her kidneys shut down, her organs were shutting down, and she was just bloated right up.
It was a painful test for Dolly. She was fairly new to her faith, only having committed her life to God a few years before, when she was unhappy and struggling with her life. It was right at that time her small town in the Northwest Territories asked her to be chief.
And I decided that, if I'm going to take this 2-year term and be the chief of Fort Good Hope, then I'm not going to do it alone. I need a higher power greater than me to help me.
She went to a Christian tent meeting and decided to give God a chance.
Pastor there led me in prayer, and I accepted the Lord in my heart, and I just felt so light afterwards. After I prayed, just like a big burden that I was carrying on my shoulders, it just lifted from me. And I felt so light and so happy, and I was crying, and yeah, it's a beautiful experience.
Dolly knew something foundational had changed within her, but says it still took time to deal with the pain of her past.
I was raised with seeing a lot of the destruction of alcoholism in our community. So I had a lot of hurts and pains I was carrying, and I just came out of a marriage then too, so I was carrying a lot of that, and the Lord has just been healing those areas of my life just constantly. And sometimes I would be crying to my pastor, I don't understand what's happening, and I feel all these things and all these hurts, and he was just praising the Lord, and he's saying, that's good, he said, because you're healing.
The difference in her was like night and day. Even her mom noticed something had changed.
I would come home at the end of the evening and stop by and visit my mom, and I'd be singing and just praising the Lord and stuff, and she would always say, why are you singing like that? You must be in love or something, She would say that. I was like, yeah, I'm in love with the Lord.
Dolly grew quickly in her newfound faith, but concern for her mother still plagued her. Vicky was gambling and drinking heavily, and Dolly longed for her to experience the freedom she had found.
And I brought my prayer request to our church, and I asked that I wanted prayer for her. And so we just kept up praying, and I think it was our pastor that told me, said, the Lord hears your prayer. And in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, right.
These two are really good Catholics.
Dolly's mom, Vicky, had a rough life. She raised 6 kids, mostly on her own, because her common-law husband spent much of his time in prison. She'd also had a traumatic childhood, growing up in residential school. It took her 61 years, most of her life, to talk about the experience.
I never told my children about it until last year, or the year before. Me and Dolly went to this court hearing in Yellowknife. I finally came out and spilled everything out. After that, I felt a little better. I'm still suffering from it. There's a ringing in my ear that they can't do nothing. from one of the sisters when I was a 4-year-old and got a really big spanking from her, and I got this ringing in my ear.
Dolly had begun praying fervently for her mom to find the peace in God she had found. When Vicky was diagnosed with leukemia in hospital, that prayer was unexpectedly answered. Her mom committed what was left of her life to God. But languishing in a coma, she didn't have the chance to find out what that decision would mean for her life.
I was just desperately crying out to him. Desperately crying out to him, just thinking, Lord God, there's got to be another way, because this woman, struggled and suffered all her life, and Lord, she cannot go out like this. Not like this. She's got to experience His love. And I just kept praying, asking the Lord to keep her alive.
Doctors gave the family a beeper to notify them if the situation worsened, and said if it went off, it would probably be very bad news.
My brother Harvey said the beeper went off. And he said, oh my gosh, he said, they started running. They're getting dressed and running to the hospital. And when he got to the intensive care unit there, the doctor stopped them and said, just don't want to alarm you, but we need to show you guys something. So they went and brought my brothers to the intensive care unit, her hospital room. And there she was sitting up on her hospital bed.
Lance, you should be cooking my supper for me.
It was the second chance Dolly had been praying for. Even though doctors still didn't hold out much hope, Dolly knew her mom would have time to learn about her newfound faith.
I told her, well, we're Catholic, and I told her, why you keep going to that different church when you're a Catholic? So I thought that was really bad. And then she wouldn't listen, and towards the end, after I got sick and came back from the hospital, she said, Mom, you like singing. I said, why don't you come with me to the Pentecostal and you'll see what they do. If you don't like it, you don't have to come. So I had nothing to do, so I just went with her, and I liked it. And since that time, I never stopped going.
As Vicky grew in her faith, she faced another test. The leukemia came back. She had a bone marrow transplant which worked amazingly well, and for the last 7 years, she's been in remission. So Vicky decided to talk to God about another problem she was facing, her diabetes. But she didn't expect an answer quite so quickly.
I said, I need my insulin, my needle for diabetes. Yeah. And the nurse told me, said, I don't think you need it. For the last few days, we never gave you no needle or anything for your diabetes. He said, you don't have it anymore. So I kept testing my blood. There was nothing. There was just normal. Right up till today.
Wow.
It was all gone. Miracle. Doctor said, that's miracle. Miracle happened. Those things don't heal.
What God had done in Vicky's life was more than Dolly had ever prayed for, yet she still wasn't satisfied.
And she gambled lots, bingo and everything. Yeah, and I kept praying for that, praying, that the Lord would just make her feel very sick in her tummy and dizzy every time she touched the bingo hall, the doors of the bingo hall.
Yeah.
The handle. I said, Lord, if you just make her feel ill every time she goes there.
Oh, that's a very sneaky prayer.
I know.
And did she? Did she?
And she did. She one day, I didn't tell nobody, but I was praying that, and one day she said, I don't want to go to the bingo tonight. And I said, how come? I don't know, when I go there, I just feel really sick, she said. Yeah, or to the gambling house. And she went back for another medical appointment, and the doctor told her she has to stay away from public places where there's germs. So that was the end of her gambling.
Looking back, Dolly is amazed at the transformation in her own life, but even more so at what's happened to her mom. Leukemia in remission, diabetes healed, and desire for alcohol and gambling completely gone.
Well, she drank, every other weekend on paydays and gambled. She was just a very unhappy person. Yeah.
And what's she like now?
And today she's laughing, she's happy. Yeah, she's sober. She's much, much happier. She comes home and she's singing. She's singing the Lord's Prayer, and you know. And a few months ago I told her, "Oh, you're singing. You must be in love."
Her prayer now is that the transformation will continue spreading from her birth town of Fort Good Hope to the whole of Canada's north. She knows that what God has done for her, He will do for anyone. In Fort Good Hope, Northwest Territories, Cheryl Weber, 100 Huntley Street.